Best pod available, Joe DeLeone, Ryan Roberts, here for A to Z Sports at the NFL Combine. Literally 4 of the last people here. There's like 4 or 5 people still here. I don't know where everyone went. We're still working. We're reacting to day 2, corners, safeties, tight ends. We're off to back-to-back days with some ridiculous testing numbers for these guys out here. Corners, safeties, and tight ends did some nutty stuff. Let's start with the corners. Ryan, reacting to 3 players that really stood out to us. Charles Demings from Stephen F. Austin, Chris Johnson from San Diego State, and Tacario Davis from Washington. Demings had a 4.4 140, a 42-inch vert, and 11-foot broad. He has been a guy who, slow, kind of quiet riser throughout this process, who has some good tape. The Combine's a perfect setting, as well as the All-Star games, but for these small school guys to put themselves on the radar and to establish themselves to be compared to some of the really big name players, I think Demings is a really good example of that for him setting the table.
Well, and if you were subscribed and liked the channel, you would have known about Charles Demings already at Stephen F. Austin, because he is a 6'1", 190-plus-pound corner who just set the world on fire. And I talked a little bit about the people near him talking about the fact that he was going to do some of this nutty stuff, over a 40-inch vert, over an 11-foot broad, and then run. They actually thought he might break the 4.4s, but either way, a 4.41 is a tremendous time for a press man corner. While he isn't the most, he's not the loosest athlete of all time, he's a little bit tight, opening up vertically. That explosiveness, that ability to play press, and that ability to be physical, you showcased all the explosiveness and all the upside in terms of an athlete for Charles Demings.
Chris Johnson has been one of these players that sits in the second round bucket that maybe could sneak into the end of the first round. Brandon Cisse, Colton Hood grouping, it's those 3 guys. We needed a chance to create some separation. Colton Hood was pretty solid so far, but we got to mention Chris Johnson going 4.4 in the 40, 38-inch vertical, 10.6 in the broad. He's 6 foot, 193 pounds. The one thing that was interesting to me is that you kept mentioning how you went to his podium, and he just stood out for how smart he was. So great athlete and also a really, really brilliant kid.
I mean, he's just checking boxes at this point. Like the senior year of film at San Diego State, after sticking with the program from high school to recruits to now a multi-year contributor and an all-conference player for them. Johnson not only had great film this year, Joe, but then he goes to the Senior Bowl, has an up and down week, but a pretty good one overall. But then he comes to Indianapolis and he shows cases. Not only does he have upside from an athleticism perspective, but as you mentioned, hearing him talk and be able to verbalize how he is as a coverage player and the different coverage variations and the system that he worked in, I really do think that he checked a whole lot of boxes this week, and I would not be shocked at all if he goes inside the top 32 when all is said and done.
Lastly, Tacario is the true height, weight, speed guy that everyone is going to be just wowed by, or is now wowed by. He's 6'4", 194 pounds, 33 and 3/8 inch arms, so he's got ridiculous length. He runs a 4.4, which I knew he was going to move well. I didn't know he was going to be low 4.4 fast. 37-inch vertical, 10.3 in the broad. I said this to you earlier. I liked Tacario 2 years ago. I had a first-round grade on him 2 years ago. He's been inconsistently available because he's been banged up. And now he's reminding people, not the same as Caleb Banks, but reminding people of what type of a player he was when he was healthy and he was fully available. To me, I think he is going to be that name that is easily brought up as the go-to day 3 corner who's got upside, who's got some really good film, and if he can tap back into what he was as a young player in college, you could end up with a starting outside corner that is a physical outlier, and I'm hoping that he ends up working.
Well, I think he's going to be a little bit of a debated prospect from now on, because you're going to see those testing numbers in Indy, and a lot of people are going to go back to the film because, as you mentioned, 2023 at Arizona was tremendous. 2024 was not as good, a little bit banged up. 2025 banged up a lot with Washington in his lone season. So you are going to have to either bet on those traits and bet on that 2023 version of himself, or you're going to land somewhere in the middle. But I do think from a height, weight, speed perspective, he has a lot of room to grow and a room to continue to get better and better and better. I hope that he figures out the best version of himself and able to stay healthy, because clearly he has a lot of traits to get really excited about moving forward.
He was height, weight, speed maxing. Now onto the safeties.
My God,
Dillon Theineman dominates the discussion, and it felt like we were so focused on Theineman, and then immediately as soon as the tight ends jumped and then ran, we've already moved on from him. That's just how it works. But I sat at Theineman's podium,
yes,
and he was asked what he thought he was going to run in the 40. He said he was going to run a 4.3. A lot of people rolled their eyes and said, "Oh, I'm sure you're going to run a 4.3, bud." He runs a 4.3 at 200 pounds. We're not talking about a kid.
Did they call him Bud? They called him Bud.
Well, you know what I mean. Like people,
I'm just kidding.
there were a lot of people saying like, "Oh, here comes a 4.5 as his 40 time." 200 pounds. So we're not talking about a safety that's like a super lean, light kid. He's got a big frame. He's got a big build at 6 foot 200, but he runs a 4.35, has a 41-inch vertical and a 10.5 on the broad. I have been a big fan of Theineman. We don't overreact to the degree with testing that it's just like, oh my God, now he's going to be a top 5 pick. We're saying these things to solidify, hey, he is able to do so many different things. He's going to be able to fly upfield. He's going to be able to jump, explode, change direction. He just has this fully encapsulating physical profile that you want in a safety, a box safety who's a really good tackler and can cover a lot of ground.
Well, I think the key is to showcase that explosiveness and that long speed and that range. When you walk back to his Purdue film, and I'm talking about the freshman year in 2023, he did a lot of stuff from the roof, right? Like he was more of a single high free safety. Oregon utilized him more as that box player, a guy that could play some mid-hole, could jump underneath passing patterns, routes, windows, patterns, whatever the words are there. But I do think that he brings a lot of versatility to the table. I think he also can play a little bit in the slot because he has some really good feet as well. So Dillon Theineman, I think he was going in the first round before today, but the fact that he showcased how high caliber of an athlete he is, top 20? Possibly, and I don't think that's overreaction because I literally gave him to the Dallas Cowboys in a mock number 20 recently, even before the testing. So I do think that he continues to rise up boards here.
Yeah, and the bit with him too that's kind of funny, he was already hovering around that 20 range, so the testing, enough teams that want players with measurables are going to just say, boom, let's do this. Like this is clearly an elite athlete, which is valuable to have in a defense that maybe already has established players at corner and at defensive line. It's the kind of final chess piece. It's like drafting a running back when you've already got some pretty solid pieces on offense. Trayton Stokes and VJ Payne, two bigger-bodied safeties that put up some great numbers. Stokes, the Arizona guy at 6'1", 190. He runs a 4.33, 38-inch vert, 10.10 on the broad. Payne, who I really liked at the Senior Bowl, he is going to be a sub-package linebacker essentially at 6'3", 206. He had 33 3/4 inch arms, so he's got a lot of length. 4'4", 40, 35-inch vert, 10.7 on the broad. But that 4'4", 40 is not something that I thought was going to happen. I knew that he was a good athlete, but to see that a guy at his size can move that well, it is going to put him in that upper category with the Kyle Lewises of this draft class.
Man, imagine if Will Campbell had VJ Payne's arm length.
That is crazy. OT1? OT1, maybe?
I really want to focus, though, on Stokes, because if you watch Stokes at Arizona, played some safeties, obviously, but the reason that he was with the safeties today was because he was a nickel mostly for Arizona, so he's got kind of that nickel safety vibe. I've been told a couple teams actually view him as an outside corner, which is interesting as well, and you see that testing with the 4.33, and you say it makes a lot of sense, especially because he does have plus length for a outside corner. But I like him as a nickel. I like him as a safety. I think that he could be a versatile piece on the slots to working from the roof. So I think that explosiveness that you see, the long speed that you see, he brings all the attributes to be a really good coverage player on the NFL level. I think people are starting to really understand what Trayton Stokes is. I mean, I got a text from two different scouts, Joe, that said that he's not getting out of the top 64 at this point. So I really do think that he has a chance to go somewhere in the second round. Stokes is one of the biggest. I wouldn't even call him a riser. I think that the NFL has always liked him a lot more than like the media. I just think the media is now getting wise to how talented this kid is.
Tight ends, we are blessed with two insanely athletic tight ends. Kenyon Sadiq, 6'3", 241, 10-inch. What did I write down 10 inches for?
probably 10 feet.
Wait, I don't even know.
10 a chance? Maybe 10 a chance?
I was trying to write something down. I don't know what I was trying to write down. Hold on. I did write down 10 in a chance for some reason. That's not.
That's a good number. It's a good number. It's a great number.
Yeah, let's hope that's what that was. 4.40, 43.5-inch vert, and then had an 11.1 broad. The explosiveness is insane. The fact that he ran a 4.4, you comped him to Vernon Davis. This feels like it's Vernon Davis. This is just. He is the most overthought prospect. The kid was banged up this year. He is going to project so easily in the NFL, assuming he doesn't go somewhere lazy that isn't going to use him effectively. Like if he just got stuck on the line of scrimmage and expected to just be an inline tight end. If you get him the ball in space and you attack openings with him, he is going to be a serious problem.
Yeah, I mean, he can play detached, he can play in the slot, he can play in line, he can do a little bit of everything. I can't take credit for the Vernon Davis comp, actually, because like I was telling you earlier, I literally had a scout text me before the season and said, this is Vernon Davis all over again, which is hilarious because his testing number, when you stack it side by side, is probably as close to Vernon Davis as you will ever find, right? So athletic, explosive, good after the catch. Does he need to improve his route nuance? Does he need to get a more natural feel in the passing game? Like, for sure, but when you have those types of rare athletic gifts, I'm betting that all day early in the first rounds.
Stowers, though, and I brought this up to you, and you kind of rolled your eyes at me, but
I didn't roll my eyes. I just disagreed.
6'4", 239, 32 and 5/8-inch arms, decent length, 4.51 in the 40, great 40 time, even though that sounds pedestrian next to Sadiq's time. 45.5-inch vert, which is half an inch shy of being one of the best verticals
of any position.
11.3 in the broad. I said this to you. He was a player who was somewhere in the day 2 range. I don't think it is ridiculous to imply if a team missed out on Sadiq and they had him as tight end 2 and didn't want to risk him falling past, or not falling, sorry. If they didn't want to risk him not being there at the end of the second round.
Right.
I don't think it's crazy to say that he could theoretically go at the very end of the first round. I don't think that that is an outlandish thing.
Sure.
It's probably not likely, but who knows if somebody ends up being enticed enough to say this would be a upper rare category tight end athlete that we can add to our offense. We don't want to miss out on this.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably slightly dismissive to it. What I would kind of phrase it as, I would be surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked, is the best way that I would kind of, that potential to be a first rounder. Joe, I mean, 45.5-inch vert and the 11.3 broad, those are both tight end records in the NFL Combine history, right?
Yeah.
So, like, this is one of the best athletes we have ever seen at the position. Even though he's only 239 pounds, he showcased that this is a rare mover. Now, Stowers is never going to be an inline tight end. Like, he's never going to be a great blocker. He's not. This is a pure F tight end, a guy that needs to play out wide, needs to play in the slot, needs to move around a little bit. But if you want an athletic mismatched tight end somewhere in, I'll say the top 50 picks just to be safe. That is Eli
your best
Stowers.
option. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Folks, hit the like button, subscribe. We'll catch you guys later.